right, welcome everyone to another MandoLessons Live, coming at you on Saturdays at noon. Hope everybody can hear and see me. I'm still having some technical difficulties. Can't quite get things dialed in sound-wise how I want them, but it seems like things are okay. Let me know if you're hearing otherwise or seeing otherwise. If you haven't been to one of these before, looks like we got people trickling in. Great to see you all. Let me know where you're coming from. We got Connell from Alabama. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, the way these things work is I play some tunes. Mostly I love answering questions anybody might have about mandolins or music or whatever it may be. I love hearing what everyone's been working on and what you're excited about. All right, we got Robert from Plymouth. Thanks for joining in. Missouri from Farmer Bob. Oklahoma from Chris. Everything's sounding good from James. Glad to hear it. Defiance, Ohio. That's got a ring to it. From Arnold. Thanks for joining us. St. Pete, Florida. Manchester, England. All right. Great to see you all here. Devil's Dream. Got a request for Devil's Dream. Play a little bit of that. Christopher says he's working hard on double stops. Denise from Michigan. All right. I'll play a little bit of Devil's Dream. It came out recently. It's a fairly recent lesson. So if you don't know the tune and want to learn it after hearing it, check it out on my website, MandoLessons.com. There's a little bit of Devil's Dream for you. Got a question here from Recovering Bassist. Says, are double stops and chord melody the exact same thing? That's a good question. It sort of depends. I think double stops, they can both mean more specific things and they can both mean more vague things. Some people think of double stops as that sort of classic bluegrass. That sort of sound. But technically a double stop is just anytime there's two strings, and I sort of expand it to two or more strings. So, you know, if you're doing something like that's 3 strings, or that's 4 strings, or sets of strings. So I kind of categorize all of those as double stops. And the same sort of thing with chord melody. Chord melody often means in more of a jazz context. You know, sort of adding in these nice sort of chords underneath your melody. But I also expand that into the realm of folk music with, you know, something like what I played first there, a great tune called Mississippi Palisades by Chirp Smith. Especially in that B part. You there's a lot of notes happening at once there. And whether that's call it what you will. I'm not too strict on the naming of things. Whatever makes sense to you and gets you using those skills. I often find that having a name for stuff, whether it makes sense to anyone else or not, it's really helpful just to give myself a name for it. Somebody was talking about pavas here. Let's see. Who was it? Luke says, just got a new Pava F style. That's great. Those are sweet mandolins. A friend of mine's got an A, and it's great. They come out of the same shop as this mandolin I got here, an Ellis. But those are great instruments. I haven't played one of Pava's Fs, but I'm sure it's awesome. I've seen videos of them, and they sound great online. Must sound even better in person. Yeah, James has got a good thing you can shout out to James in the chat. He says, seems like a lot of people come back same week after week. Might be nice to hear how everyone came to the mandolin and their style of playing, what they're interested in. Yeah, so fill in the chat there. Let everybody know where you're coming from. It's great to... I'm interested in that stuff as well, so if you want to share, by all means, throw it up there. I won't be able to read through them all, but I'll look forward to looking back through them once this live stream is over. Luke says, what's the most common scale you use when in a bluegrass jam rooted in A? I would say, just off the kind of top of my head, I'll give you two, because I use them kind of interspersed. You can do either a closed or standard A scale, 2, 4, 6, open, or you could do 2, 4, 6, 7. That's all in the G string. Same thing on the next, 2, 4, 6, 0, or 2, 4, 6, 7. And then on the A string, 0, 2, 4, 5. And then E, 0, 2, 4, 5. So you get... That's a nice way to kind of get around the scale. The other way I would do it is out of this A chop chord. Get your hand into that chop shape. And then you can use the 7th fret on the D string as your root note. And just sort of see if, without moving your hand out of this shape, see if you can find all those notes. So we have 7th fret on the D string is an A. 9th fret with the pinky is a B. First finger on the 4th fret of the A is C sharp. Second fret D, second finger D. Ring finger E. Pinky F sharp. Pointer G sharp. Middle A. So you get this sort of... And you can also add a lot of double stops. So try both of those out. If you're interested in more sort of in-depth exercises, check out FFCP, which is a great sort of some PDFs and a sort of 4-finger. It's called FFCP, which stands for 4-finger closed position. There's some free PDFs on jazzmando.com that are super helpful. I'm gonna catch up with the chat here. Everybody does Sally Ann in the lesson. Oh, ever done Sally Ann? This is from Jordan. Ever done Sally Ann in the lesson? I didn't find it, but maybe I missed it. I don't think I have done Sally Ann. Yeah, Sally Ann's a good one. I always get a little mixed up with Sail Away Ladies because they're so... See a muskrat, Sally Ann, dragging its thick tail through the sand. I'm gonna marry you, Sally Ann. I'm gonna marry you, Sally Ann. etc. Very close to sail away, ladies, sail away, ladies, sail away. But yeah, if I can get those a little more sorted out in my head, I'll do lessons for those. Good suggestion. Cool. Ritzenhoff says I got a hurdy-gurdy and it goes great with mandolin. Hurdy-gurdies are awesome. My bandmate has one and pulls it out every once in a while. Super fun. I love French music and I love the hurdy-gurdy, so they go hand in hand. Hi from Bill. Great to see you here. Recovering Bassist says, I find I can pick out a melody in a song, but I struggle if I have to play a second solo. How to change, he's asking how to change it up a little bit. I'm prone to playing the same thing again. Yeah, good question. I'll play through a little kind of solo of something like Man of Constant Sorrow. So first off, starting with the melody's great. I'll do a little bit of that. And then maybe so that was a couple times through sort of a melody solo and then taken a little farther afield. I think one thing that's a great help and a great exercise is it kind of all stems from variation in my mind. I think it's easier to, take the melody and expand from that rather than feel like, the melody gives you a root and sort of a landing place of what you can play and how you can alter the melody. And if you do a little exercise where you play one measure or one little line of melody and then just see if you can work up something that's a little bit different. So something like Red-Haired Boy. So you sort of see what I'm doing there. We've got, here is a little bit of melody, and then something weird, or something different, and then go back to the melody. And those little sort of variations and little measure-long solos, they might not be the most musical thing you ever played, but it gets you in that habit of just trying to come up, it's harder to come up with a whole AABB, or if you're in a song like a solo length improvisation, but it's a little more manageable just to try something in a little measure phrase, and that can totally work as a solo. So if I'm soloing over Red-Haired Boy, it might sound like this. So you could sort of hear some Red-Haired Boy in there. You could hear a little bit of like, oh, he's leaving Red-Haired Boy behind. But then I would come back to it. Some of those were more successful than others. But just work through that process a lot. Use my play-along tracks. I got tons of play-along tracks at MandoLessons.bandcamp.com, where you can find them through the website. They're posted on every tune. And just, play along with the guitar tracks that I have provided. But then also do a little variation. See if you can do melodic line, variation, things like that. All right. Can I play Mockingbird? I don't know that one off the top of my head. Cool, Keith is here. Good, from England. Glad you could join us this time. Cool. Juiced says, I saw your tenor guitar video earlier. Now I need one in my life. Yeah, tenor. I also play tenor guitar, which I tune mostly like a mandolin, G, D, A, and then a D instead of an E. And I put up a video recently. You can find it probably if you Google, or if you, how can you find this? If you look on YouTube for Collings, Collings, tenor guitar. It's not the first one up there, but if you sort it by date, it'll come up. It's me sitting right here playing a tenor guitar. But yeah, they're super fun. I'm hooked. Cool. Jordan says he's got a mandolin friend who wants to play Sally Ann. That's a good one. Yeah, I'm sure it's out there somewhere. I'm sure there's tabs you can find. Christopher asks, double stop question. Do you think it's easier to learn than by just trying to experiment and play? Okay. Do you think it's easier to learn by trying to experiment and play? I don't quite understand this question. I think it's easier to learn. Focus on that as part of. Oh, okay, I see. I think maybe what you're asking there. Sorry, it took me a little bit to get through that question. I would say experiment. You can do. I don't know. I would say whatever you find easiest. There's neither one's right or wrong. Your ear qualitatively is just going to tell you if it's going to tell you that that's a bad sound or a sound you're not looking for. It's not a bad sound. This is probably not the interval you're more excited about. So if you hit something like that, you'll hear it and say, oh, that's not quite right. And you'll maybe not play it next time. At the same time, if you get to a spot in a tune, and you hit that G and you're like, oh, I really want a note there. What is that? What can I add underneath that G to make it a big double stop? You can either say, well, what chord's happening at that moment? And the chord progression goes G, D, A. So you can say, okay, it's a G note and I need a G chord, or I need some notes for a G double stop underneath that. You could go, and you just have that G shape, that first G shape that probably everybody knows here. And that's a great thing to add. Or you can run through it and maybe you'll go. And that's maybe more by ear. And you end up with 3 on the E string and 5 on the D string. Or 3 on the E, 5 on the A. And you get a little double stop. I'd say whichever one works for you, probably do a little bit of both. Make sure you're following the chord progression. I definitely am able to think that way. I do both. I think I kind of get the chord progression in my head and use that as a way to find double stops, but also I tend to just play a lot of open adjacent strings and have learned through trial and error that either sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and knowing when I can throw in those open strings. Connell says, I've been trying to get faster with my picking and looking for advice. Can you point me towards one of your videos that talks about that? I'm new to stringed instruments entirely. Well, welcome to mandolins and the world of string instruments. You're in a good place. You found the right crowd, in my opinion. Yeah, on my website, if you go to the technique and fundamentals section, there's a video, or if you search faster in the search bar of my website, there's a video in the technique and fundamentals section called How to Play Faster. I talk a little bit about how to go through all that. And yeah, I'll just leave it there rather than repeat myself, so you can go watch that one and I go through that stuff. My mandolin seems to tip down peghead end when I play. Any suggestions? Oh, are you using a strap? That's a question. So right now my mandolin is doing exactly what you're saying. But so the way that I sort of anchor the mandolin, one is I'm a huge fan of straps. Having this strap is totally a game changer for me. And then, if you let the mandolin do its own thing, it is going to tip down. So the way that I see it is my right arm, while it's not clenching down on the instrument, just sort of the weight of my arm, I bend at the elbow and then kind of flop across the instrument. And that right there, I'm not tightened right down, but it does a lot to hold up the instrument, and it doesn't want to fall down that way. So see if you can just get that spot. You can experiment. I have an armrest, which might help, but I don't find that problem. I think it's more of just a matter of finding the right spot. Some people, depending if you have an A style. Wait, did you say you have an A style? You didn't say, but this is from Denise, by the way. You can also experiment. I usually just have the instrument kind of floating, but some people will play with it a little lower, so it's in their lap. But I would try that kind of contact point, and then you should be able to, just hold it like this for a while, and just through kind of the weight of your arm on the instrument, it should sit like that. But a strap, maybe get a wider strap if it's still. I know that if I've used like shoelaces in the past, and they're so skinny that they don't have quite as much friction on my shirt or my jacket, so that's gonna likely tip down a little bit more. So you could try a thicker strap, but I think getting that arm, if you're not already, just thinking about that arm as sort of a stopping point, that could help. So yeah, Recovering Bassist says my lines flow at times but are inconsistent. Yeah, I would say the way to work through inconsistencies is to just do it a lot. See if you can work on whatever tune you're working on at a nice slow tempo, maybe slower than you really want to play it, and see if you can really just work through it and work all of those ideas out that don't, it's like a lot of people talk about like writing a song, or for every good idea or good picture you take or good song you write, you're gonna take 1,000 bad pictures or write 100 bad tunes, or all the stuff that's left on the cutting room floor. You hear a lot of that, and I think it's true. If you just pump out a lot of it, you'll quickly you'll put out a lot of stuff that you might not be happy with, kind of coming out of your instrument. But when you hear it and you say, "Oh, that's not what I meant," then you learn from those notes that come out. But I'd say don't be afraid to just try stuff. Put your fingers down weird places, see if it works. Experimentation is a huge part of it for me. Linda asks, do double stops work on tenor banjo as well as they do on a mandolin? Well, it depends. You can. I play tenor banjo as well. I mostly play it in traditional Irish music. And it's less of the style in traditional Irish music to play double stops. Mostly what I'll do is maybe like hit an open string. So it's a little sparser of a style than. It's very filled out. And on tenor banjos don't ring in the same way. I think really the strength of the tenor banjo is that it's loud and it really cuts through. So I'll definitely play an open string here or there, but I'm much more sparse. But whatever you like to say, if you like the sound and you're not sort of getting in the way of other musicians, by all means, do what you like the sound of, or what the tradition of the music sort of tells you what to do. Okay, so Recovering Bassist says, as I'm playing, I'm thinking about chords, but I'm never thinking exactly what notes I'm playing. Yeah, so I think maybe what you can... you seem to be really on the right path. Just keep thinking about those chords, seeing if you can just get those chord shapes down into your fingers. I recommend see if you can work on a half dozen tunes that are all in the same key, and really, it might be slow going at first, that first, second, third tune in the same key. But once you get to a half dozen, maybe up to 10 tunes in the same key, you're going to be using those same kind of chord shapes and double stop and finger positions for all of those tunes, assuming they're all kind of like 1-4-5 chord sort of tunes. And you'll start through working on multiple tunes, you'll start to get a real kind of integrated sense of what notes are available to you for double stops and chord shapes and things like that. So I just say keep up the good work and keep doing it. Cool. Juice says I'm watching this on my TV now. Isn't technology a wonderful thing? Sheldon says, love your tenor guitar. What song were you playing? In the video, which you can find, I just played a little, I don't know if you were asking about the video I just put out. I played a tune called Miss Monaghan's, which I'm about to put out on Mando. No, did I just put it out? I can't remember. No, it's about to come out, probably in June sometime. An Irish tune called Miss Monaghan's, and I did a little kind of improvisation before that. It's a little bit slower. Christopher says, lots of people talk about picking issues and speed. I find focusing on keeping my hands and arms relaxed helps, and also not just staring at my fret fingers. Might talk about those. Yeah, so there's a couple. Yeah, you're totally right on the right path by staying relaxed. Also, I think, if you're relaxed and you know what it feels like to be relaxed, when you have pick direction issues, you're not going to feel relaxed anymore. Your hand's going to seize up a little bit and be like, oh, I don't know what to do. And you'll tighten up. And that's a great sort of physical reaction that you can mentally take note of and be like, okay, I'm not relaxed. What's going on? Oh, it's a pick direction issue. Go back, fix that little spot. Good to go. Also, just thinking, a lot about with these, strum patterns or picking patterns, with jigs like down, up, down, down, up, down. You can think down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down, down, up, down at first, but really what you want to do is just get that feeling in your right hand of da-ga, da-ga. It just becomes a feeling. If anyone plays clawhammer banjo, it's sort of the idea of the clawhammer banjo kind of bum diddy stroke. That at first you go, okay, it's down, strum, up, down, strum, thumb, down. And it's a very mechanical process. But pretty soon it just becomes a feeling in your hand. The same idea with jigs or reel picking. You want to get that feeling into your hand on a physical level so you really know what it feels like. And then when it doesn't feel right, that's a nice example of having that moment of like, oh, that doesn't feel right, something's wrong. And having that physical reaction is really important. Also, not just staring at your fret fingers. Yeah, I did a video called Don't Look Down. It's on my website, MandoLessons.com. And I talk about, not looking down. See if you can just, get a tune going in your... And see if you can just look up at the ceiling or look at a wall or try to read something. People do all kinds of different things. And that can really help. You might hit some wrong strings, you might hit some wrong frets, but just work through it slowly, and it'll really help your playing to get your eyes off of your fretting hand or your picking hand, just not looking at what you're doing. Cool. Kevin's tuning in. He says, I thought I was traveling. I'm traveling. I'm leaving next week. So this is the last Mando Lessons live until June. I'm going to be traveling for the bulk of May. So the next one will be in early June. So no new Mando Lesson lives for the next bit of time after this one. Also, I've just put out a bunch of new lessons for anyone who follows the website and or is subscribed on YouTube. I put out like 5 lessons all at once, and if you're wondering what that's about, it's because I'm leaving. I'm not going to have internet access reliably, and wanted to keep you guys busy while I was away. Arnold says, got to run. Hope to be back by the end. If not, I'll watch it later. See you next time. Thanks for joining us, Arnold. Yeah, if anyone has to leave at any point or can't catch one week, you can always watch these. There's a whole playlist of them, or you can just search the videos on my YouTube channel. There's also now a link through my website on the left-hand side of the screen underneath the donate button about live, and there's a link to the archive of all of these live episodes in there, so you can always watch them at any time if you can't catch them live. All right, JD says hi from India. Great. Thanks for joining us. Good to have you here. Hello from the home of the Kentucky Derby and the Kentucky Derby. I don't know what that is, but I like the name of it. Well, thanks for joining us, Chuck. When Recovering Bassist says, when playing mandolin with others, especially in bluegrass, is there a specific instrument you focus on most? With bluegrass, I think one thing that can help, I think at this point I try to listen to everybody, and I think that's really kind of a skill. The more you play, and you may know this as a bassist, like the more you listen as a bassist, you gotta kind of hold down the low end and the groove of the song. But I think a skill to work on is being able to sort of have your mind clear enough and be familiar enough with your role on the instrument, and doing whatever you need to do that you can really keep your head up and not be too focused. Again, not be having to look at your fingers, and by looking up, be aware of all the instruments around you, who's doing what, who's taking the solo, what the sort of groove is from the bass and the guitar and the banjo. I think to start out though, it's actually a lot of work to really be aware of all those instruments at once. So if you're getting into bluegrass, I would focus on the bass, because the bass is going to be boom. If the bass is going boom, 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 boom on the beat, boom, 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 the mandolin, you're going to be chopping when the bass isn't playing. So you get boom, 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 boom. Am I still coming? Yeah, I just noticed that my volume dropped as well. Oh, I think it's my, let's see, I'm going to get a new battery for my machine here. Trying out this new mic setup, and I think the battery in my preamp is dying. I spent a couple hours this morning just trying to get it to sound right, and I think I wore out the battery. I wonder if this is... All right, let's see what that looks like here. How's that coming through? Okay, looks like we're back. Had a battery die on me. So I hope I'm back up and running for everybody. Oh, thank you, Robert, for the super chat donation. I always appreciate it. Thank you very much. Cool. Looks like I'm coming back through. Sorry for the brief interruption. A battery died on my mic system. Okay, so Chuck has explained the Kentucky Derby, which is they put plastic numbered ducks on the water and race them. That's awesome. Okay, I'm gonna back up here and see if I can catch up with some of the stuff I missed. Cool. Ben is here, or Karen, sorry, from Sky. Thanks for joining us. Cool. Andrew says he's been working on the melodic variation lessons with the octave substitutions. Yeah, it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's worth your while, and if you keep it up, it'll be second nature before you know it. Yeah, that's a good idea. So I was talking a little bit about, if your melody is going, you can substitute that 5th fret on the A string with the open D string. And what you can do, and what Andrew said that's a good idea, is just play both of those at the same time. Or, sorry. Another thing I like to do is kind of play that lower one, but still play the 4th fret, so if the melody's going up, you get that little momentary, and then you can hammer on, or just play that note again on the 5th fret. 0, 2, 4, double stop with the 4, and then 5. Yeah, it's definitely a good thing to work on. All right, got through the quiet section there. Oh, thank you, Robert. Says the super chat donations for the batteries. Thank you. Yeah, these 9-volt batteries apparently don't last long in this. I wonder if I could get some kind of. I don't think this has an option for like plug-in power, but that would be nice. Can I play My Old Kentucky Home? Unfortunately, not off the top of my head. But that's a good one. Kevin says, I need to improve my chord and rhythm. Any tips? Can you show some different styles? Oh, recovering bassist, thank you also for the super chat donation. I appreciate it. And Mark says, hey, thanks for joining us, Mark. Cool, yeah, so, good question. Improve my chord and rhythm. Yeah, a couple things. One would be either work with a metronome or use my play-along tracks that I do with my fiddle tune videos and just play the... Because when I record those, I have a metronome in my ear just so I can be sort of... have a consistent beat going so I don't throw you guys off. But play along with that so it's playing the melody only, and then see if you can keep a nice solid beat underneath it. And I think especially practicing things slow, often, especially with rhythmic things, doing something like this is going to be easier once you get the sort of pattern down than doing it like this. Because there's so much space between the notes that it's a little more, you're kind of like, where's that next one going to come? There it is. And then there's a big space and another one. Versus once you kind of get your hand moving, there's less space and little rhythmic problems don't show their heads as well. Or in the same way. So I think that's one thing. So I have maybe, and what you should do is, if you haven't checked it out, I have a whole strum pattern series on my website. It's in the technique and fundamentals section of my website. It's near the bottom of the page, and I go through a couple things, that sort of guitar strum with that alternating bass. I also do a little bit of just kind of bluegrass chop. Boom, 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 boom. I also do a little sort of Irish cross picking. Sort of sounds a little kind of like imitating like a dadgad or a drop D guitar. Very drony sounding. A lot of open strings. So yeah, check out that strum pattern series. I think that'll really help you out. And there's probably some other lessons in the technique and fundamental section of the site that can really help you with that. And I think, you know, a big thing is just sort of working on rhythm just takes a lot of time. And just, I think a lot of my rhythmic strengths that I have at this point come from being a contradance guitar player, where for 3 hours a night, for hundreds or 1,000 contradances or however many I've played, you know, I would just sit there and go. Or but, you know, playing rhythm is a very repetitive task for your right hand. And really, I think often our right hand will get bored before we really have nailed that particular pattern that we're working on, you know. So if I'm going, I might be like, okay, I got that down now. But really, see if you can do it for like 10 minutes straight and not vary the pattern, and see if you can start to do other things like talk or read, or just try to distract yourself and see if you can keep that muscle memory going. That should really help kind of ingrain that a good rhythm in your hands. And it's an important thing to work on, because I think a good sense of rhythm is as important or more important than being able to play a lot of notes and being a strong melody player. If you're a strong melody player with a poor sense of rhythm, you're gonna sound like you have a poor sense of rhythm. But if you're a mediocre rhythm melodic player, but you have a great sense of rhythm, even the few notes that you do play are gonna sound awesome and really in time and really groovy. So I think that's sort of the way I see it anyway. Just, and again, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm probably not, so apologies there. Says, do you have any tips on spicing up some tunes? Playing plain melodies gets or feels repetitive in certain songs. Yeah, check out, so I actually have done a couple videos that are now in the technique and fundamental section of my website called Melodic Variations. I did one on octave substitutions and one on chord tone substitutions, things like that. There's also a double stop series on my website where I talk about, you know, really filling out that sound from to something like that. Casey says, just joined the stream. Got your mandolin on Wednesday. Can I do a lesson on Richie Sambora's mandolin solo? I can't do that. It sounds like it's something that's copyrighted, unfortunately, but congratulations on the mandolin. I remember you saying it was, I think, in the mail last time, and congratulations. Just the only thing to do now is play it a lot. If you or anyone has requests that are probably copyrighted, ask over on Mandolin Cafe in the forums. There's tons of people over there that collectively know way more than I ever will. And people might have links or other resources for learning particular songs that are copyrighted that I'm not going to be able to get to. Can I play Little Liza Jane? Spiced up. Yeah. Oh yeah, okay, there it is. It always takes me a little while to remember this one. There we have it. Little Liza Jane. Casey says, where do I find Mandolin Cafe? So it's www.mandolincafe.com. It's a great website. I learned a lot from there when I was starting to learn. I still learn a lot from that website. That's like the #1 place to be as a mandolin player. An awesome forum with tons of people that know everything you could want to know about mandolins. Help you out with whatever you got questions about. Everything from learning to play to building them, microphones, gear, things like that. Great interviews and a great classified section. It's all good stuff all around. Thank you, Andrew, for the super chat donation. As always, you got to run. But thanks for the well wishes. Yeah, I'll hopefully bring back some tunes for everybody on my trip. From my trip. Jorasco says, I'm planning to buy an Eastman MD315. What do I think about that mandolin? They're great. I love them. I've played a couple. You know, it depends on specific instruments. Play it first if you can, but I've never played one that was a dud. Eastman makes great stuff. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I always say that when I'm talking about gear, because it's true. No sponsorships, no free stuff, anything like that. I buy all my own stuff, and opinions are my own, just so I can keep that straight with the YouTube advertisers and things like that. See if I missed anything here on the... Cool, Robert says he's got an Eastman and likes it a lot. Good stuff. All right, let me see if... I think I'm mostly caught up on the chat, but... If I haven't answered your question yet, let me know, and I will get to it. Maybe I'll play a tune until that happens. I'll play one of my favorite Irish jigs, the chordal jig. There it is, the chordal jig, one of my all-time favorites. So Jarasco says, can't buy an Ellis, understandable. He doesn't have a mandolin, or they don't have a mandolin seller nearby, so they have to order it from the internet. If you're in the U.S., check out a website like Elderly Instruments, elderly.com, the Mandolin Store or the Mandolin Hut, great ones. Or see if you can find something on the Mandolin Cafe Classifieds. And if you're overseas, that might be an option too. You can post a wanted ad on the Cafe Classifieds. There might be somebody that's got one. Or ask on Mandolin if you're overseas. Say like, hey, where's a good place to get an Eastman? Because if you order one from like Amazon, okay, so you're from Germany, great. Yeah, that could be a great question for Mandolin Cafe. I don't know, if you in the States anyway, if you order a mandolin from Amazon, it's not going to be set up as nicely as if you order it from elderly.com or the Mandolin Store, things like that. So see if you can find a good recommendation on a place to buy one from Mandolin Cafe, so you get one that's really set up and ready to go. Because a poorly set up mandolin is not going to be beneficial for you. And usually you can find somebody that'll do a good job and really make your mandolin sound and play its best. Sheldon says, my tremolo sounds a little sloppy. Any advice? Yeah, I've got various things. I think there's a lesson in the technique and fundamentals section of my website where I talk about tremolo, but I think one thing with playing tremolo is to try and stay as relaxed as possible. If you're really tensed up in your right arm, it's going to sound tense, and tremolo is all about being super smooth. I think another thing that'll help is if you're not doing this already, tip your pick, or the way I think about it is like right now my pick, if I drop my pick, it will hit the floor flat. There we go. That was totally an accident, but it proved the point. Pick is flat, kind of parallel to the floor, and what happens is the neck of the instrument tips a little bit, so it's a little more kind of comfortable playing position, but the pick stays flat, so what you get is the left edge, kind of this edge of the pick, goes through the string first and puts a little tilt to the pick as it goes through the string, and that makes it a lot easier for the pick to go smoothly over the strings. Things like that. Also, play around a little bit with how much of the pick is actually going through the strings. You don't need to dig in that deep. You can really float across the top of the strings and not dig in too deep. So try some of those things out if you haven't already, and see if any of that stuff helps you out. Cool. Looks like we've got some talk of good places to find mandolins in Germany. Yeah, I would again, it looks like maybe the shop what they're recommended doesn't have what you're looking for. Ask on Mandolin Cafe. It could be that somebody there is like, oh, I've got one of those and I live in Germany and I'm trying to sell it. Like, it's in great condition, but it's half price and you can come play it and see if you want it. I love buying a used mandolin is buying a used car. You got to make sure it's in good condition, but as soon as it's no longer new, the price drops quite a bit. At least on Eastmans and things like that. There's other like vintage mandolins, the price goes up, but for the most part with new mandolins, used is a better buy than new, as long as it's in good condition. Sean says, lovely jig. What do you tend to play before or after that? I'm getting into thinking about sets. I'm pretty inconsistent with sets. I never have like specific things that I play. I don't know. You could play the black, if you wanted to ramp it up a little bit, you could play the Black Rogue. So an interesting thing, actually, this is a good topic about sets. That tune is a little awkward to get out of because it ends. It ends on this kind of unresolved note. It's in the key of D and it ends on a G chord. So you could, it still works, but you know, often I might end a set with that tune because it kind of does that. And then you can end with the beginning of the A part again. And you get that little sort of slow outro. So maybe thinking about that as putting that as the last tune in the set and putting something before it. Maybe a jig and G. The Out on the Ocean. Try that. Yeah, just look around on my website, check out all those jigs and see if something in there fits nicely. Cool. More glad to see there's people here that are helping out on the Germany mandolin hunt. It's good to see. Cool. Well, I am just about out of time, but thank you all so much for joining in. Again, I'm not going to be doing these live sessions until June again, just because I'm going to be off traveling. But I will be back in June and starting back up. The summer's going to be a little bit sporadic because I teach at a bunch of camps. But I'll let you know. You can always come to this page, whatever it is, youtube.com/MandoLessons/live. Or I think that's the whatever the URL is. And I'll have a little post up of next one is. So right after this, I'm going to change it to June 4th or whatever it is coming up a month from now. Yeah, and you know, keep busy with the lessons that I posted until June. Keep on playing. Thank you all for tuning in this week. Thanks for all the super chat donations. Always appreciated. And yeah, have a good one. Have a good rest of your weekend. Thanks. Bye.